Alright guys, welcome to another video on how to create table using DAX in Microsoft Power BI desktop. So in the last video we learned how to create a date table using DAX and using date functions, and also using calendar and calendar auto to create table that will populate the columns inside of the table. Now, how can we create other tables outside of date table? Is it only date tables that we can create in Microsoft Power BI? No. So how can we create other tables in Microsoft Power BI, and what functions are we going to be making use of? So the tables that you're going to be creating depends on the kind of argument or the kind of requirements that you are working towards. But in this case, let's say for example we want to make another table with an extraction from this table. So we need some part of this table, not everything entirely, but we need some part of this table to create something else entirely. Now what we're going to be doing basically is, as usual, click on the existing table, then say new table. Then this new table we're going to be calling it let's call it extracted table. So new table, waiting for that to load up. Okay, so we have extracted table. Then the extracted table, we are going to be making use of function called selected columns. So in Microsoft Power BI desktop, we have we can navigate to second line, third lines as much as you want. So using shift enter, so you have to make sure you press your shift enter before you can be able to do that. So now what we want to do basically is say we want to calculate, or want to add a new table, selected columns, select columns, sorry. So we have select columns, and what we want to do is inside of the select column, as you can see, we have the argument. The first argument is the table. So from what table do you want to bring in some information from? Then I'm going to say, hey, I want to bring in information from the financial table, comma. Then the next thing is the name. So what name do you want to give to the column, or to the new the new columns that you want to populate? Don't forget, we've already named the table to be extracted columns. So now what columns do you want inside of the new table that you're trying to create? So the first one is, I want to be able to create, let's say for example, segment. I want to call it my segment or customer segment, as against to financial. Inside of financial we have segment. Now we want to extract the segment from this place inside of the new table that we are creating, and we want to call it customer segment. Then the expression, now is asking us for the expression, that is what exactly are we trying to bring in. So I'm going to say, hey, inside of financial I want to bring in the segment, so I'm just going to reference the segment column. So if I run that, then a new column is going to be created and is going to be called customer segment, and inside of the extracted table. So as you can see, customer segment, from inside of extracted table I've created a new table which is called customer segment, and it is extracted from the financial. I can also say, hey, I want to extract more things. Let's say for example I still want to add the let's say country, so I want to bring in the country as well inside of this table. So I can say a country, I'm going to call it customer country. So customer country, then inside of the customer country I'm going to say, just reference the column that this guy is coming from, so country, and boom, then you notice that two columns has now been added to this table called the customer segment and customer country. So basically we are using the function select columns, that is select columns from financial. What columns do you want to select? I want to select the customer segment and call it, I want to select the segment and call it customer segment. Then I want to pick up the country, then call it customer country. It is interesting, very interesting function. Then I can also say, hey, I also want to bring in total sales. I want to call a column total sales. So the total sales, now what is going to happen? So here we can see that we have the sales price, which is for the price of each of the product. Then we have unit sold. So unit sold is the quantity, and the sales price is the sales of each of the items. So I can say, hey, the total sales is going to be, basically we have sales price I have the sale price multiplied by units sold. So add a new column called total sales and do this particular formula there. So add a new column total sales, then multiply, that is the information that is going to be inside of the total sales should be the multiplication of the sales price and the units sold. So if you run that, then you are going to have a new column called total sales. Then it's going to be basically the formula that you have supplied to this function. So the selected column, the select columns is a very interesting function in Microsoft Power BI desktop and in DAX that allows you to bring in, to extract columns from other tables to populate a new table entirely. We also have another function called new table, called add columns. So in Microsoft Power BI desktop we have add columns. So if we want to create a new table, for example, then I'm gonna say, hey, I want to create extracted table 2, then I want to add columns. Now the interesting part of this guy is that if I say add columns, you are basically saying, hey, I want to bring in a particular table, then add columns, all the columns that is there, then I want to add an extra column. So say for example I'm saying, hey, I want to add from, let's say, the extracted table that we created now. So from extracted table, comma, what is the new column that you want to add? I want to add a column called, let's say, discount band, or let's say the product. So let's say product. I want to add another column called product. Then from where, then I'm going to say product, then it's going to bring up or I can say I want to add product from financial. Oh, okay, so the table is not referencing. So if I say product, then the expression of the table can be, let's say, the table of total sales. So I want to bring in total sales from inside of that guy. So in this new table, as you can see, so based on what I have inside of the extracted table, because that's the table that I'm supposed to reference inside of the add columns. So I have add columns. So all the columns that I have before previously, so customer segment, customer country, total sales, has been added. Then the new columns that I want to add by myself, which is product, then assuming that I have some calculations that I want to do inside of the extracted table 1, then basically is going to be the one that is going to be affected inside of this guy, because I'm referencing extracted table as the table for the add columns. So I want to add columns from the extracted table, then the column is going to be called product. Then let's say for example inside of this add column I still have columns like the cost price, the unit price. Then I want to calculate the cost of the production. Then I can basically say that guy multiplied by the cost of production, like the unit price multiplied by the cost of production, then it's going to give me the cost, the total cost, for example. So this is how interesting to create a date table, a table or tables in Microsoft Power BI desktop. And as you can see, we have two different tables now: extracted table, which basically have customer country, customer segment, and total sales. So when you are using selected columns is going to extract columns from other tables. But when you are using add columns is going to add every single columns in that table with the extra columns that you want to add to it. So say for example, from the extracted table 1 that we referenced, so customer country is there, customer segment is there, total sales is there, then the new column that we added, which is the product, is also there. So we are having the same value for product because we are not doing any calculation. We are just referencing the total sales, then it's bringing it back. So assuming we have some columns, extra columns in the extracted table, then we can make use of maybe multiplication, addition, division, and so on and so forth. Then we are going to have different results. So this is basically how we can create another table without having to do the date table. So it is not only date table that can be created in DAX. So we can create multiple tables depending on the kind of requirements that you are working towards, just like I've explained before. So in the next video, we are going to be looking at text functions and logical functions. So how can we use textual functions in Microsoft Power BI Desktop, and how can we use logical functions in DAX? See you in the next video.